It's about David Landau. I only saw him today. Shortly after your visit, he died by poisoning. Hey bunnies, welcome back to Mask of the Rose, the demo. It doesn't say obviously because it's a demo, so I had to play through the whole game again. I'm pretty sure I chose every single question, but if something feels wrong, maybe I misclicked. Ministry of Accounting and Recounting calls on citizens to cooperate in ongoing census. Hold the pass. What does this mean? That's a very pretty background. I'm always reliving London's last night on the surface. I try to put it out of my head, but it's still there. The dimming of the sun at 3 in the afternoon. The sky turning the colour of rust. The horrible bang and the cloud of dust from the direction of Westminster. The tolling of the bells. The horsemen who rode down the street. Liveried in the livery? I don't know how that word works. In the garb of the palace, shouting, "In Her Majesty's name, go indoors." And then the sky was full of bats. More bats than I thought could exist in the world. Wheeling, shrieking, defecating. People went indoors then. If they'd ignored the criers, those that had no house crowded into the churches and under the bridges. Even now I don't understand. How Her Majesty knew to send criers. Palace has been shuttered since that day. The royal family do not emerge. Surely if they had known this was coming, they would have departed London. It's only the city that fell. The rest of England, we assume, remains above. So this takes place, like, directly after the events, which Sunless Seas definitely does not. I don't know about Fallen London, but we can go to the surface in Sunless Seas. But it's, like, extremely bright to the point where you, like, burn if you're out there for too long. I reckon it's a tornado. I've heard somewhat similar in the Welsh Hills back to 1760. Near light in the sky and a noise like a thunderclap. That's no tornado, love. It's a plague of Egypt. I don't know what voice I can give her. Contemplating look at Grizz, because we've already kind of like vaguely flirted with Grizz. Arguments don't happen in front of Grizz unless she chooses to let them happen. The Great Stink seems like a supernatural visitation at the time, and there are perfectly scientific explanations for that. So it was too. Problem with the pipes, my eye. My eye? Problem with the pipes, my eye. So it was too. Problem with the pipes, my eye. What? My mother always said it was Judgment Day on London. Judgment on London. Sorry. Then the ground shook again and the pipes rattled on the wall. I believe we can blame Mr. Bazalgette's excavations. Digging about under London, causing a seismic disturbance. And what did he find down there but a cave of 3 million bats? Is that what you reckon? There are stranger things neath London. That was the beginning of it, but we were down there for hours and hours. The sky darkened and didn't return to normal. Once, around midnight, Chris went upstairs and opened the door to the street, but she came right back down again. She said the cobbles were galloping about. It wasn't safe to walk outside. After that first bit, the memories collide and get confused. I have trouble keeping track of which came first and which came later, and whether I'm imagining something. I've spent a lot of days like this. Thinking back, trying to piece together the bits of the puzzle. As if I could realize something that would make sense of it all. I'm also still not sure how Sunless Skies ties into Sunless Sea and Fallen London. We don't have any outfit changes to actually do, so I guess we head outside. So I'm not sure how many days are in. I'm assuming there's only 2. Collect census information from the Menace thing. Good morning. Pharaoh doesn't look straight at my badge, but it's been noticed all the same. Everything's all right and tight here. Regular inspections and all that. We pay the constables their due. Introduce myself as an agent of the ministry. Agent for the Ministry of Accounting and Recounting. Some people do conduct themselves in extraordinary ways. No, that's not me. Pleasure to meet you. Inquiring into the particulars of the rat-catching profession. Is business good then? I've been rat-catching and mole-killing for many years now, but I've never seen the business like this. There's demand for the eradication of the beasts, and demand for their bodies when you've done them. So the wages have never been good, but I don't get so much competition as you might expect. Though it stands to reason considering what one finds in a rat nest these days. If you ask me, in a year or two, we'll need more in a terrier to catch rats with. Might need firearms. Ask if the rats have changed. What's different about the rats now? Hungrier, aren't they? They used to a sea's worth of scraps. Suddenly London scraps aren't worth the having. trying to do like a high-pitched voice, but I end up going to the voice I'm doing for Archie. They'll come out bold as day and take a loaf off a man's plate if you aren't careful. And you hear stories, don't you? About rats getting so eager they'll gnaw on an infant in its crib. Calmly accept what's being said. Right then, I believe you. You take my word for it. Truth to tell, I haven't been called on to deal with any chewed on infants that wasn't already deceased. Unsavory subject. I don't have any money, how am I going to bargain? I'll ask character some census questions. What should I put on the census as your full name? First, the only name I go by. And no one saw fit to tell me if it was a forename or a surname. Might have come down to me from a noble house, for all I know. Courtesy of me great-grandsire and his wife, Lord and Lady Stoatweasel. What should I put down about your romantic attachments? For the census, that is. Strange thing, but I don't fancy sharing those particulars with your masters. It's my shy and delicate nature. Might put me to the blush if those things were to become known. I wonder if you ask using the actual census questions if they're like the f every time, and then they have to kind of go, yeah, this is what it means. There's a spot on the census to write down whether you live alone. Ah, what's it to them? For all you know, I might keep a dormitory full of vermin-killing apprentices. Like my master did with me for enough years. Took me out of the chimney-sweeping trade and put me at rats instead. Okay, I'll get for employment, and then I'll let him lead the conversation and see if he brings up romantic stuff. I meant to write down what your employment is, though I can see that you catch rats. The money's in rats, and moles, and spiders, like it says on the sign. Which, now I notice, you can't see. The spiders is new. Used to be most people were happy to hit them with a slipper and be done with it. That form, do you have to put it on it whether a person is a gentleman or not? There's nothing about gender. It doesn't ask anything about whether the person is male or female. That's good. Can't say I've ever liked answering that one. Okay. Cool. Let's try matters of the heart again. Are you inafficated or impassionated? Strange thing, but I don't fancy sharing those particulars with your masters. It's my shy, elegant nature, so he doesn't have any different answer. Let him lead the conversation. Let them lead the conversation, I guess. Any chance you might help me amend my traps? I'll be in your debt. If I say yes, it'll no doubt take me the rest of the day to finish, but a favour from Fairy might be of some use in the future. Agree, but they owe me, I guess. Certainly, I'll find a way for you to return the favour later. Fairy whistles tunelessly. Now, if I ask for the heart question for the census, no, for Ragged School. By now, Horatio will be wondering where I am. Grizz is waiting for me. Whatever census forms you have ready, it's time to take them to Mr. Page's. You can have supper instead. Mr. Pages has been expecting these all day. He's eager to see what you've made of the collection. Once I've shown you how to reach the ministry, you can come back on your own and turn in the others. We thought Mr. Pages will decide to keep you on. With that, she leads me outside and down a side street that is no longer named. The way is serpentine, through streets that do not seem to lead towards the spires at the center of the city. But each time I look up, it is closer, the spired building on the horizon. I don't remember these like spired buildings in any Fallen London picture, in any Summer Seas pictures specifically. Finally, we find ourselves standing in the shadow under its walls. Before us is a low door that once, I think, belonged to a solicitor's office. Grizz takes out a key, made of something other than metal, and unlocks the door. Mind the pile of papers, I've already sorted them 3 times. Mr. Pages is very particular about the ordering of documents. Now, where has he gone? Usually he's here by this time of day. Ah, there you are, sir. You were just coming to bring you the census documents. Keep not being able to do her voice. A first installment of many, I'm sure. Mr. Pages, may I present Bunny? Pretty sure you can romance him as well. Bunny, this is Mr. Pages. The whole Ministry of Accounting and Recounting is under Mr. Pages' direction. Express gratitude for the job, I guess. Thank you very much for offering me employment. The opportunities in London aren't what they used to be. Riz assures us that they are improvicated, whatever the fuck that means. It is highly gratificatory that the populace of London appreciates their move. There's something positive about the Master's efficiency. I've never known a government ministry to operate with such speed before. You're a good egg, at least. That's what my former fiancée used to say. Griselda, you're a good egg. What have you brought us? And over Archie's census page? Oh, you get paid for census pages, okay. Ah, most satisfactory. There are secrets here. Using 2 shiny pennies for my trouble. Oh, we're trading secrets. That's what the pages are. See, I thought the pages might be pages, because you do trade in pages on the seas, don't you? I turn one over and has a portrait on the back of someone who is certainly not the queen. The face in the back of the coin stares at me until the hair prickles on my neck. It reminds me of a debt owed. I don't want to remember. My breath hitches and slows and resumes. I'm holding 2 pennies now. We did not expect much from Archie. Under Khan Grizz, having already revelated that he is a lightless character. I asked Mr. Pages a few questions of my own. The census? What are you doing with the census information? All of London's older records were destroyed in the fall. Not destroyed. Rendered less than utilificacious. Many of the people counted deceased. Moreover, the older records are a missionary. Perhaps it was time for such a thing. My uncle always said the parliamentary procedures have the dust of the Tudors on them. If not of King Alfred. The romance account's about. Why are you asking people about their romantic situation? Are you planning any related laws or regulations? I can't imagine that. You may consider the love stories is that a real word? Remunerant? Love stories are payment? Remuneration means payment. Yeah, in exchange for our generosity in the matter of food and clothing. Are there any particular details that would enhance the pleasure of these tales? Yes. If you're able to convey the flavor of the hearts and their resistance to the tooth. Metaphorically. So he wants people who are in love to eat? Is that what I'm hearing here? Grizz accompanies me out again when it is time to go. As we make our way back to Horatia's. She asks me what I think of Mr. Pages. She tries to make it sound like an idly curious question. Tailoring challenges, like the fact that he's wearing a lot of clothing. Or like that he's huge, because he was huge. I'm glad the ministry has someone like her to advise. I say it's a good thing the ministry has someone like her to advise them. That pleases her. She had an uncle who was in Parliament before the fall, and she always thought she could do at least as well as he did, given the chance. So now at last she has scope for her ideas of governance, at least in a small way. The rest of the way home she spends telling anecdotes about her uncle's political career and a number of highly placed individuals in the old government. Before we go back inside the house, she reminds me. We have many more people in the neighborhood to survey for the census. You know how it's done. Now, so you can collect them and take them to Mr. Pages yourself. I have other duties and I may not always be there. But Pages is, well, I am certain you won't be harmed if you visit the ministry on your own.
But the populace of London appreciates their move.
I asked neutrally whether she has feelings for Pages. I got the impression that you have an affection for Mr. Pages. Frown face. Mr. Pages is a puzzle. Sometimes he can be protective. Other times I think he would let me walk into the sea if I chose. Not because he dislikes me, but because he has no fear for me. He trusts me to judge for myself. Under Khan Grizz, he calls me. I'm not sure I'd call it love. If you should say anything about his feelings, please tell me. It's time to go home. So, does that mean that all the people have kind of vaguely romantic affiliations with other characters and you can choose to kind of... Well, romantic or friend... they probably have different romantic friends. They have a relationship with other characters that you can, like, undermine, I guess. Archie is already at the table when I arrive. When he sees me come in, he gives a guilty start and scoops some of his stew back into the tureen. Tureen? It's like a big pot. It's like a urn thing.
We don't expect much.
Took more than I'd a right to, but I'd not eaten any yet. Apologies.
Already revelated that he is a lightless character.
Tell him not to worry about it. Don't worry. I was lost in my thoughts. Forgot. There was a lass who asked me to come round and look at her brother, a Jewish family. They usually go to their own doctor, but he's out of service or ran away or something of that ilk. Their old synagogue was destroyed in the fall, so they moved to the Tenderground Synagogue. Rachel and David Landau. David has a stomach complaint, chronic. Perhaps they have trouble cooking anything palatable. It isn't easy these days, with what we have. The sister's a beauty. She wouldn't leave the room while I saw to her brothers.
You may consider the love stories.
It's what Rachel was doing, I guess. Is that usual? What was she doing? Kept watching me
In
work.
exchange for a generosity.
Make a note to know where you book. Felt as if I was being marked on my bedside manner. And the brother? Will he live?
Yes.
Oh, aye. For a bit I thought it might be serious. But what he needs is his stomach settled. I don't know what rely on what I already know. Like, maybe I can pick up information without asking.
Metaphorically.
What should I write about the man at the heart? Were you in love when you were younger? The butcher at the corner asked me a few times to be his wife. My mother would say we ought to have go or look at him and see if he was good for you. Couldn't say I was tempted. He had 7 children from his marriage before. I believe he was more attracted to the extra rooms in my house than to me. Employment. The census also wants you to write down anything you're doing other than running the household. The house has been my business a long time now, and my father left it to me. He bought it so I would have a good place to live. He didn't want to leave it up to whether I'd find a good husband. That's the end of supper. Horatio stands up and begins putting the dishes away. So I feel like days are... You know, some of the sea style, you do things and things happen. Especially if there's seasons. So I guess... you can just continue playing the game for a long time. There's no end goal. No, but there has to be an end goal, because they have this, like... They have it's all dialogue here. There's no, like, a progression system other than that, right? Despite everything, there are still broadsheets printed. The headlines today read, Her Majesty's Palace shuttered. Royal family remains unreachable. Seems like recalling the past has nothing to do with the daytime, like the time. Remember the days of the fallen fragments. There are a few moments that I'm always drawn back to, memories that stand for everything else that happened. There are things I remember from that night that cannot have happened, impossible things. If I concentrate, I can recall. Constable Hodge checked on us that night. Hodge turned up as the constable of these streets right around the time London fell. I didn't see him around here before that, but he's watched over the neighbourhood since. That day, when the sky had gone red. Even though it wasn't time for sunset, Hodge knocked on the servant's door. He was carrying a lantern. All well in this house? Any wounded, any missing, any dead? Anyone bunkering with you that didn't live here yesterday? It was Horatio that answered, of course. Horatio owns our rooming house. We were all living with her when London fell. I am indebted to Horatio. Since the fall, I haven't always had the funds to pay for my room and board. She provided for me anyway. If there's anything to eat, I'm always welcome to join the other lodgers. She's never said a word in front of the other guests. Everyone's here that's supposed to be here. No need to be concerned about us. It's the line of duty. There wasn't anything to find. If anyone does come to stay with you that doesn't belong, I'm not turning away anyone from my door that comes in need of food or a bit of shelter. I was only going to ask that you inform the constabulary, in case they're suffering from confusion and have relations looking for them. We have something to eat before we left. We have a few provisions if you need food. It looks like being in a long night. I can't stay, but thank you. It's kind of you to offer. We've already asked our census questions, right? I've never met before, but I recognize these people anyway from Archie's descriptions. They have to be the Landows, the brother and sister pair. He's been treating David's stomach pains. Wait here, Rachel. I'll speak with this person, it won't take long. Good morning. Introduce myself as a friend of Archie. Bunny, I have the advantage, I'm afraid. I know of you through a friend of mine, the young Dr. Archibald Reed. He and I reside in the same lodging house. I'm David's sister, Rachel Simcha Landau. She has the first name and watches me significantly, as though I'm supposed to have heard of her. I'm Rachel's brother, David Landau. Other Londoners might not recognize the hint of Iberia, but I heard just about every accent to come through the wharves. Whatever his last name, I'd guess he grew up among the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. Did Dr. Reed send you to us with some sort of message? I suppose I shouldn't call him doctor, as he didn't qualify. He would have known to find us here, but I can't imagine what message that would be. We've paid his fees. No, I'm here in my own business, but he told me you might be here. What can we do for you? The Ministry of Accounting and Recounting have asked me to work on the census. I'll answer your questions, Bunny, if you answer mine. Call it character research. Are you having peculiar dreams down here? Oh, I'm a dock worker, so I probably have a lot. Based on the Fallen London universe. So I got the lurid misery of my nightmares. In truth, my nightmares have become so extreme that I barely dare to sleep. When I close my eyes, I sense the dreadful, malevolent presence. Ah, I asked for your feelings, not for a recitation of your favorite Christmas ghost story. Rachel, that was only the answer to a question. Trust me, I interrupted just before we reached the dreadful clanking of the ominous chains. Or perhaps the lidless stare of Serpent's Eye? I had forgotten till now, but I have dreamed of a snake that watched me in sleep. All my limbs were heavy and too paralyzed to move. I try to remember what it means, but the thought is gone again. Go ahead with your questions, Bunny. Ask what she means about my character research. What did you mean when you said you had a question about character research? I write novels. They are published one chapter at a time in the Lily of London magazine. I was in the midst of one when the fall happened. The publisher insists that I continue the story despite it all. Coffee's probably not best when I'm talking a lot. Rachel, are you sure? Certain you want to share too much? So much. Does it matter? Surely these precautions are behind us. Good from my notebook. Why is it notebook now, though? It used to say census specifically, right? That now it says notebook? Or am I literally writing it down in a notebook and giving him just the page? Matters of the heart specifically. Do you have any romantic commitments now? He doesn't have any commitments. In fact, I would go so far as to say he's utterly without prospects. He stays home and reads. I haven't been well. He wants me a spinsterhood, but he's headed very much in that direction himself. Isn't the same thing at all. I agree, it isn't. I have my work to support myself. What's become of your fun since the fall? You'll have to marry if you don't mean to end your days a pauper, brother. I'll rely on you to support me in my failing years, sister. Is David not? I didn't get this question, didn't I? For the census, what is your romantic status? Married, betrothed, are you in love? No, at least, that isn't what I'd call it. Just as well, too. In the times before, you would never have darkened the door of such a person. Before you cast me as the intolerant brother. Bunny, you should know what we're speaking of. Milton is a yellow-eyed, flash-dressed, hot-handed creature, at least 2 decades too old for my sister. Oh dear, the rules of polite society have broken somewhat in the fall, haven't they? Nothing of the sort. Milton is an artistic inspiration. If you're not a writer yourself, Bunny, you cannot guess how much the fall has disrupted our sort of work. Characters have certain tastes, certain preferences, certain prejudices. All I need to do is imagine them in new circumstances and their reactions right themselves. But now, we've all been at least a little bit cracked by the fall. How does anyone behave? Who can say? You always said you wrote from observation. You can still observe. Since the fall, there's no pattern in what I see. It is only home that makes sense to me, and I cannot make my whole novel about a brother and sister lighting candles at Shabbat. Shabbat? That's... Assuming. I was not making a compliment out of curiosity. Why not? The publisher wouldn't tolerate it. The Lily of London wouldn't print it. The rest of the world must come into it somehow. Milton helps me sort the rest of the world. He can make sense of anything, even a viscountess running down the street in her peignoir. We're going. It's frickin' educational video part 2. Okay, so it's like a dressing gown or lingerie. Just another word for those. For like sleepwear, I guess. That is the least confusing thing that has happened since we arrived here. Let me say, Bunny, Milton smokes rose-scented cigars. He helps me. Encouraging to gossip further. Goodness, really? Milton quotes poetry instead of making conversation. What does that signify? Milton carries in his breast pocket a jar of honey with a tiny spoon. Oh, wait, Milton's a devil? Is that demon? I can't... They mention them in Sunless Skies. I don't know if they mention them in Sunless Seas. But there's like a group of demons or devils that like look for souls. Plenty of men of fashion behave that way. You must be going, we're already late. Everything is always running too slowly, and yet every day is the same. Goodbye then. Shit, I didn't get any more pages. Except that? Is that Ferret's page? Because I didn't get the... Oh no, that's Horatia's page, right? Going about the master's work, I see. I have something for you if you want it. He produces a nearly new admiral's hat in perfect condition. I found it near the docks. I'm son of the owner and I can't wear it myself. I thought someone at Mrs. Chapman's might get some use out of it. Perhaps Lady Griselda. That's her name. Trimmed with gold braid, it makes a person look like a respectable representative of the Navy. Wearing it gives me a commanding presence. Thank him profusely. Oh, thank you. That's tremendously kind of you. What a thoughtful gift. It's so cold down here, and clothes wear out quickly. You're impossible to squash, I see. Are you enamorificated or impassionated? I've met matchmakers before, but not in London. Are all practitioners here equally unsubtle? Appeal to the expeditions of the constabulary? If you have a weakness to pressure, anything a criminal would use to blackmail you, it should be declared or you put everyone at risk. I rely on your discretion. Even before the fall, it's not likely that I would have been married. My companion wasn't a lady. He was an Englishman who came to the Punjab. I don't really know what that is. I'll be honest. We became acquainted and then more than acquainted. I thought he and I would remain together throughout our lives. I followed him here away from my own country and everything I knew, to the home of my former enemies. He promised me that it was worth the sacrifice. He said we would never be separated. You will observe that he isn't here. Offer my condolences. Rotten luck. We've all had a great deal to bear. I've been looking for him since the night of the fall. I walked on streets that were tearing themselves stone from stone looking for him. They ask about employment as well, don't they? A constable on my street died on the first night, buried under the rubble of a building. I claimed his uniform and his lantern. There's a way to continue my search. I thought I would put them aside in the morning, but we haven't seen the sun since. Sisters asked me to report on your household, whether you live alone or with others, that sort of thing. I live alone since my companion departed. I want to let them lead the conversation, but I feel like we get some use out of like money and buying like the clothes at ferrets and stuff like that. Or should I put on the census as your full name? Ajit Singh. An uncommon name here. I grew up in a large house full of people. Built to withstand the heat of Lahore. My mother had beautiful rooms off the courtyard, open screened to catch the breeze. It was a mark of our family's wealth. Now I live alone in a dank cave. It's all I can do to keep the draft out. Okay, and then we have supper. It's good one of you is here for supper. Neither Archie nor Grizz has made an appearance today. Good evening, I'm looking for Mr. Reed. Is he here? Archie, he's upstairs. Listen. Yes? I know all the old maps have been outlawed, but if you've come for his atlas, do you think you could leave it with him? Gives him a lot of comfort remembering all those little villages in Scotland where his family used to live. Put in a good word for Archie's map collection, I reckon. Yeah, I'll leave Archie's maps. He's not doing any harm with them. That isn't why I'm here. I go to the foot of the stairs and call for Archie. Jeet, I hope you're well. I'm sorry, Archibald. I'm here in the line of duty. It's about David Landau. Did something happen to him? I only saw him today. Shortly after your visit, he died by poisoning. Died? The poor man. What? But I saw him very recently. I'm sorry to have to bring you this news. Is Rachel alright? Is there anyone with her to protect the house? The Landau said you were the last person to speak with David. But the fatal dose must have come from you. But that's incorrect. Because I was the last person to speak with him. I deny I understand. I'm here to arrest you for murder. Wait a moment, perhaps Mr. Landau's own relations took him against Archie's manor. And they're blaming him for what he didn't do. My manor? Your way of speaking is peculiar, love. Sometimes people leap to a conclusion for the wrong person. I knew it was just time till Samite went awry. There's too many folks ill. And can I cure the whole town? Where are you taking Archie? Newgate prison was destroyed in the fall. For the time being, prisoners are held in the HMS Ungulate. Sounds like a very insalubrious environment. Cold, damp, infested with vermin. Breathing the vapours of the Thames. It might not be good for the health of the printers. You're not talking your way out that way. No, I mean, if you didn't mind before we set out, I'd like to collect a few doses of this and that. Things that might help to settle bad lungs and prolonged coughs. You're asking whether before we go you can be allowed to rearrange your collection of drugs. And bring some of those drugs with you. That is not quite how I'd phrased it. When you stand accused of murdering a man through the use of potent toxins... Oh. For the sake of your future guards and cellmates, I think I must refuse. How is Rachel doing? Does she have anyone with her? There's a housekeeper, Phoebe, and some friends from her community. They're preparing the body for burial. It can't be left unburied very long. That's why you couldn't romance with him earlier. Also, I'm covering Archie's face. I'm so sorry, Archie. You don't deserve this. I just go like... No, because if I go down there, I'll go here. So, yeah. Interesting. Where are they burying him? They mean to take him to a Jewish graveyard at Ball's Pond. Rachel said there might be a dispute with her Spanish relatives that their mother was buried somewhere else, but she did not think it would change the outcome. Horatia, I'll be back as soon as I can. Don't let out my room to anyone else. Next time! Okay, it's ended. Good timing. I might actually have to cut this into 2 parts though. If you want to see the surface again, tell me the truth. What's in the bottle? I don't know what it is. I only know what it does. And you've no need to lie. I know I'm not seeing the surface again. Archie's books. Let me burn them before they give Hajit the wrong idea. There's a true story in here and thousands of false ones. Compelling. But for next time, more heart crumblance is required. My own people won't permit disturbing the gravesite. But you, I know you'll help me, for my friend's sake. Even if you don't care about David. A companion is good with a shovel. Rachel, I'm sorry, I had no choice. David's alive! We thought you were dead. That's a bit of a spoiler. Why did they put that in there? I was. We need to see my murderer. The next time he tries, I might not be able to come back. I've already wishlisted that. Okay, I'm actually, I don't know, I wasn't expecting a murder mystery plot in there. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. If you haven't already, wishlist Mask of the Rose. If you like dating simulators and you like Lovecrafty and horror style things, this is both of those. If you are interested in the universe of Fallen London, which is really cool, really fleshed out. There's like a lot of story writers writing on this. They focus on stories before they focus on the actual game. So like if you really love stories, and like I recommend any of the games. Like it's a lot of reading, but it's really worth it. Like you can get so much, even if you don't read everything, just like the stuff that you're interested in, you get so much out of the games. Like there's so much I don't know about the universe because there's just so much written down in the games that it's hard to find it all. Fallen London, I believe, is free online also, so if you want to take a step into the universe without paying any money, that's where you would go. Yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bunny out.